No. You all have to listen to each other and find your common tempo. Because if one guy's saying, I'm setting the tempo, and the other guys are following that tempo, it's never going to be right. You have to become, when you are X amount of people playing together, you have to become one organism with one set of lungs and one heart. And the only way you do that is not think about who's got the right tempo. It's, we got to find the tempo together. So that's really important. And it's the same thing, like if you walk into a room and you have to talk to each other, the best way to talk to each other to get something out of the conversation is actually to listen where everybody else is saying. Like, you know, the opposite would be, let's say you outside the room. You go into a room, you know you're going to have a conversation, but before you go into the room, every person writes down a sentence on a piece of paper. And then you walk into the room, and then you read that sentence you wrote down in sequence. Is that a conversation? Not really, right? And do you get anything out of reading these sentences in sequence? Not really. And if you listen to that conversation, do you get anything out of it? Not really. You get something out of it if you empty your mind, you go into this room, somebody's talking, you can hear everybody, and you start to actually talk together. That is when you start to have something interesting to do, and that's when it starts to be interesting to listen to, and that's when you start to exist as an organism. So it's the same approach with music as with speaking. And let's see, right, is there any questions in regards to this? No? All right, well, let me play you a song that kind of, I mean, you know, playing with backtracks like this is actually a good example, because you can say, all right, I'm playing with backtracks, it's computer generated, the tempo is there. But the way I approach playing with, you know, tracks like this, I'm not thinking, this is a machine, I know what's happening. No, I'm trying to approach this as it's the first time I hear it. So I can actually go into the track and become the track, because I know the track's not going to follow me, so I got to listen to the track and become the track so that the pulse and the rhythm of everything becomes one. So I got to do everything I can to become one with the machine, and I imagine that the machine is trying to do everything to become one with me, and that's where we can get a groove up and going, even when it's a machine. And that's a good experience also if you're playing with click track. That's the same thing you got to do. But anyway, I'm going to play you a little melodic tune. Let's see, what should I do? I'll do a tune I wrote about Denmark. Denmark is a great place. And when I moved to New York when I was 18, I had a good time in New York, but sometimes I would get homesick and I would think about Denmark. And when I write music, I often write music from pictures I get from whatever they are. And when I wrote this song about Denmark, I got pictures like on a spring day in Copenhagen where I grew up, where I walked across the lakes and the trees were green and I heard the birds. And there's a special thing, I think the Danes will know this, it's like in the morning in Copenhagen, like sometimes in some street you can smell the bakeries. Like they have all fresh bakeries, really, really, really cool. But anyway, out of those images came this song that I call Home Sweet Home.